Hi, everybody.
How's it
going?
That's louder than I thought. I'm sorry. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, it takes some adjusting. But,
Woo.
yeah.
Check one. Check. Good. All right. I feel good.
So, big news from yesterday on the PC gaming show. Was that yesterday? I'm losing
Yeah.
track.
Oh, don't ask me.
Oh, man.
What was it? Yesterday? Day before yesterday?
Yeah.
Day before yesterday.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, War of the Chosen, XCOM 2's biggest expansion to date, right? Coming out.
Yeah. It's big. It's very, very big. It's I'm trying to think of another word than big right now. It's huge. it's massive. It's gigantic. It's bursting.
Bursting with what?
That was a bad one. That's not good.
A little girthy.
It's yeah.
Oh my God.
What?
It's,
Yeah.
Comprehensive.
yes, comprehensive. That's better. Thank you.
So, yeah. I don't want to sound like too much of a kiss ass, but XCOM 2 is one of my favorite games
Yes,
last year.
yeah.
I think
I wouldn't
you.
shut up.
Oh, that's okay. Continue.
It's
You mentioned
go
it in
on.
every lobby,
This
I
game
think.
is genius. No, but yeah, I'm excited for this. It actually, I missed it because we were watching something else like during the PC Game Show.
Yeah.
I was hosting something upstairs, and then I got off and I got off the stage, and then I came down to catch up on it. It looks really great, but it looks huge because I think the biggest one for 2 so far was Shen's Last Gift, right?
Yeah, we had a couple of DLCs, and then this one it's not, it's an expansion. It's huge. We have a ton of new enemies. We have 3 new soldier classes. We've got all kinds of toys for the player to engage with. It's just really, really big. Tons of systems. Like, I lost my voice on the first day because I was trying to explain the whole thing to people, and then
Mine's
like, this
going
is
right now,
absurd.
yeah.
I have to hit high points and just hope people trust that it's really, really big.
Yeah. Would it be fair to compare it to The Evil Within?
Yeah.
Wow. No. Holy shit.
Well,
Sorry.
What?
Not at all.
It's very
XCOM,
similar.
Enemy Within.
The horror.
Enemy within.
Oh my God.
Uh,
The Enemy Within. which pretty much
It would not be
revamped-
fair.
Been a long
actually.
week.
But yeah, you're right.
Sorry.
Enemy Within. So yeah, it's like it's much bigger even than Enemy Within. It's huge. It's huge. And so we have these chosen, these handsome aliens there, and so they're like these. And there she is, huh? She's lovely. They're these. They're kind of like the ultimate enemy of XCOM, and so they're like the player in the sense that the player's going to fight them multiple times over the course of the game, and every time they do, the Chosen are going to get stronger. They're going to they procedurally gain new strengths and new weaknesses, and so maybe one time you come in to fight the assassin, you think you know how she's going to work, but instead now she's completely immune to melee, and you're like, okay, I just lost my ability to attack her that way, and so it just forces the player to sort of rethink things every time they face them.
That's awesome. It reminds me a little bit of the Nemesis system, sort of. Maybe not as deep as the Nemesis system
Oh,
from
I've never
Shadow Mordor,
heard
but kind
that
of.
before. Is that a? Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that was definitely the inspiration. Absolutely. We thought certainly that the ability to have those procedural strengths, and our characters are more fixed, but we've never had enemies with actual personality before, and so
Yeah.
that's one of the big things we wanted to do here was add a lot of characters with personality, and so they always play procedurally. It's still very much XCOM, but they all have personalities. They'll talk to you when you're fighting them about how you did against them last time, how the other Chosen are doing, big things you've done throughout the game, and then they'll talk to you outside of combat as well. And it's the same thing with the factions. These are the new resistance movements that the player can integrate with. They have leaders, and those leaders are characters, and they'll be talking to you about things that are going as well. So it's very lively, and even to the point where we have on the dropship back from missions, you'll hear like the radio from the Advent, the government, and they'll be trying to spin what you just did, for them. They'll be like, oh, no, nobody worry, it was no big deal, nobody got hurt, just a gas explosion or something. And then in the base, when you go into the bar, we actually have Jake Busey. I don't know if people know who Jake Busey is. He's Gary Busey's amazing son, and he's our radio resistance DJ, and so he'll be in there, and he's like spinning thing for the resistance. So there's just a lot of voices and a lot of characters they all respond to the things that you're doing, and so it really feels like, okay, this is a real resistance movement. People are responding to it. It feels like a live world.
Can you go more into the how you build the relationships with the resistance factions? Because in the trailer it says the problem is that they all hate each other or
That's
something.
right.
So you're kind of seems like it's almost like city-state relationships to talk about civilization.
Yeah. You have to win them over, and so they have very different philosophies. All these different factions have different philosophies, and you need to win them over. And the way you do that is that each faction is kind of paired off against one of these Chosen. And so to win over the factions, you kind of have to go after the Chosen that they don't like. And then eventually you can recruit their soldiers, which are very, very powerful units. You can have more control over their faction, and you can start telling them what to do. And so it's another really in-depth system that's totally new.
For people who get really geeky about it, like me, can you go a little more in depth on the 3?
Oh yes,
like the
yes I can.
units
Yes
you
I
get out of
can.
it?
I'm never afraid to go geeky. That's
Do it.
That's what I do. Yeah, so you've got one faction. It's they're called the Reapers, and they are stealth marksmen and they're saboteurs. So they can attack. Yeah, there you go. There's a Reaper.
Sweet.
So they can attack from concealment, and there's always a chance that they won't be revealed. So
Oh,
every
cool.
time you attack, you'll actually see like a meter rolling and be like, oh, you stayed concealed.
Okay.
And so it's always this big trade-off of, do I really want to, they're a great scout unit, but they're also really deadly. So you kind of trade that off. And then there's a skirmisher, which is they're defectors from the alien army that actually join XCOM, and so they're half alien, half soldier hybrids, and they're skirmisher. Look at the nails. See, you can tell by those fingernails. That's not human. It's not human. But it needs to get that touched up. But yeah, so they're really powerful. They take a lot of actions every turn, and so they get an extra action if somebody attacks them. They even have an ability called Battle Lord, which if they trigger it, then every time an AI unit takes an action, the skirmisher gets an action.
Oh, cool.
So they can take like 10 actions in one single turn. They're crazy. And then the final group is called the Templars, and they're this melee-only class, and they have these big psionic blades. There we go. There's the Templars. And they're cool because they build up power. Every time they attack, they build up power, and then they can unleash it with their really powerful abilities. So there's this trade-off of building up power and then wanting to keep it because it makes their attacks more deadly, or you can unleash it in these really big, powerful attacks.
Cool.
So for me, I'm an XCOM newbie. I'm such a baby.
Welcome.
I don't know much about it. I do love strategy though. Is this
Yeah.
something I can jump into, or should I start off on just base game?
No, you can definitely jump into this because this integrates completely with the base game. I mean, what we've done is we've added a bunch of new narrative, we've added all this stuff, but it actually sits on top of and integrates into the base game. And so, we've got a new intro cinematic, we've got a new finale, we've got all this cinematic stuff that adds in, we've got all this gameplay stuff that adds in, but yeah, you can just jump right in and get going.
Okay, because I think Mike will want me to play this. I want to check it out.
Yeah, for sure,
So if I
definitely.
can
'Cause,
jump straight into it, I'll do it.
So
Talks about it every day.
Yeah,
Like,
I think
I'm not joking.
we need an XCOM jar where he puts $1 in every time he brings it up.
Yeah.
I did not tell them to say this, I promise.
No.
Yeah. I'm curious. So, as someone myself who's played a lot, and I want to go into like the mods, if you don't mind, a little bit
Yeah.
outside of the DLC, because I've been playing the Long War Long War 2 regularly
Have?
since it came out. Yeah.
You are for real.
Yeah, I'm a masochist.
Look, I can't make it past a mission, and I'm just like, oh, this is for real.
Yeah. Well, I haven't beaten it
Yeah,
at all,
yeah,
but I
right,
played
right.
a lot of it, and I don't, you don't really beat XCOM. XCOM 2
Right.
fail a lot, but
Right.
I'm curious what the Chosen War is going to do to like the overall flow of XCOM 2, right? Like, what does it mean for like, you said you go to the bar and you got a new character there that's kind of like doing the propaganda stuff on both sides, Advent and Resistance.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what, like, if I'm as someone who's played a lot of XCOM 2,
Yeah.
Chosen War, when I jump into it, outside of these 3 factions and like all the added layers with these bosses, what is it going to mean like for the overall like identity of it?
It's very different. I mean, so we have all these small systems that change. We've changed research. We've changed. So your soldiers now, they get fatigued, and so if they go on multiple missions, even if they're not wounded, they're going to get tired. And what that means is that you're going to start rotating a lot more soldiers through. The game is much longer because of all this extra content. One of the cool things is that your soldiers can now gain negative traits, which are like personality quirks.
Okay.
And so if they get really wounded, one of the funnier ones is the obsessive, and that means that soldier, if they're running around and their gun isn't fully loaded, instead of doing what you tell them to do, they'll reload their gun.
Shit, that's awesome.
And so,
Sounds like me.
right, so you have this big tactic you want to pull off, and you'll be like, move over here, and they'll move over there, then be like, oh, my gun's not loaded, and they'll reload it, and you're like, ah, crap, And so it creates these personality quirks with your soldiers, and so there's a lot of these little elements that just really change the way that the game used to work, and it's a longer game. You have a lot more soldiers. You have these heroes. There are all these new strategy systems interacting with the factions. There's a lot of fun stuff, like there's a propaganda mode. So every time you win a mission, what it's going to do is take your soldiers and it's going to put them together and pose them in a bunch of different poses and generate like a motto for this squad, and then it'll put filters over it, and you can adjust everything. You can type in what text you want. You can rotate your soldiers, give them from a bunch of different poses, and so you sort of take this like group selfie after the mission, take a picture, and then that poster starts appearing throughout the world on the sides of buildings, and so there's just, on the fun side of things, there's a challenge mode. So you can jump in and play a sort of like challenge that you got 30 minutes, you got one time to beat it, and then you're ranked against everybody else in the world, and there's these really difficult challenges. So if you just want to play a little bit of XCOM, so yeah, there's just tons and tons of stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome because it's kind of hard to explain to people outside of XCOM that there actually is despite the fact that it's like this pretty hardcore strategy title, there's a lot of personality to it. Like, I remember some of my favorite like snipers and grenadiers from XCOM 2 more than I do in like narrative games.
Yeah.
And I like this stuff because I feel like it'll increase my connection to this world and to these characters.
That's right. And
I don't know if that's the aim for that.
That's absolutely the aim. There's two sides of the story. It's a story that, the dictated like narrative cinematic story, and we certainly have added to that. But really the stuff that sticks with you as players is your own moments and being able to share those. And so we have something called Soldier Bonds, which leans into that. The idea is that soldiers form relationships with each other now. And so now soldiers have compatibility with other soldiers. You take them on missions and you'll find out, hey, these two are really compatible. And if they go on multiple missions together, they'll form a bond. And that means when they go on missions together, they get a bunch of free abilities that are all about their bond. And so it just sort of creates a new story. You're like, oh, these two guys, they love each other. And these two over here, they bonded together, and they're really powerful when they're together. So it sort of feeds into the idea of like the player-driven story.
Is that inspired by Fire Emblem?
Yeah, I mean,
That's what I thought of. I thought of
like,
Fire
wait a minute.
Emblem.
yeah. I mean, you will not be able to bring your kids back from the future. We have.
Darn.
We don't yet have that technology. But yeah, I mean, I always loved that about Fire Emblem. It just makes sense, In your head, you're already forming these relationships between characters, and so it just sort of was a natural thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I am curious actually. Speaking of like Long War 2, have you been talking to the team that did that and like how that's going to affect, or how the DLC might affect that? Or
I haven't actually. I haven't talked to those guys yet, so that's on my list of things to do.
But yeah, I was talking to Pete before the show about like mods and how you can go about creating them, and then obviously the Long War is probably the one that arose out of XCOM the most, and that's the most the famous one that came out, and I played a lot. I played like Long War 2 a lot. And you've always been really vocal that you love supporting the modding community. Can you talk about, I guess like in broad terms, what the modding community has done for XCOM 2 specifically?
I mean, it's amazing. So I think that it's this idea, and there are some studios like this, and where you realize that if I'm a creative director, my team, we're not the owners of the game or the game experience. Like it is, especially once you have a number after your name in the game, that means that the only reason you exist is because there's an audience. The audience owns the game. I'm not going to go off and make something that the audience doesn't like. They're more owners of the game than any of us are. And mods are the ultimate extension of that, where members of your audience are actually creating content, and they can serve. People may have, well, I want this specific thing, like Long War. XCOM's not hard enough. We want it even more hard. We want it more complex. And so to allow your audience to sort of be part of the creative process, like, it's a gift because we can't make that much content. Nobody can. And you can cater to very specific parts of your audience. You can create all this content. You can get direct feedback from people. It's amazing. So I'm so glad that it's worked out. Like the modding it's a very big part of what XCOM is.
Yeah, I think some of my favorite mods are kind of minor as well, like having the Halo weapons in the game.
Right.
That's really
That's
good.
right.
Yeah, or like Star Wars cosmetic stuff.
The Bob Ross mod is pretty strong.
There's a Bob Ross mod?
Oh, it is amazing.
Wait, explain this to me.
What does it do?
It's amazing. You have Bob Ross, you have the model, it's Bob Ross, he's got his hair, and then voice lines from Bob, like actual lines from Bob Ross. So he'll be like, "Oh, isn't that a pretty little?" And he'll be like taking a shot at somebody. He'll be like, "That's a beautiful thing," and you're like, "It's just amazing." And so, and those are moments where you're like, obviously, probably for legal reasons, I could have nothing to do with that, but you watch that and you're just like, I've got to try that. I've got to play that. So yeah, it's amazing. And so there's the funny mods, there's the serious mods, there's the purely cosmetic mods. It's just really amazing stuff.
Yeah, and if you don't mind me saying, I think there are mods that make your game better. Maybe things you can do, like the evac all.
Of course.
I think that was like a minor one. So when you're trying to like evac troops from a dropship, you used to have to.
Okay, you are not kidding. You are hardcore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. No, you used to have to like go click each one, evac him. You would rappel up to it, But then, of course, there's evac all, so they would all just go through it once you're in the zone of the dropship. But, like, what's it like seeing modders, like I said, it sounds like you're open to the idea that made your game better.
Yeah, we don't think that we can't tell people we've made the perfect game every time we make it. We don't believe that. And so it's nice. Again, modding is great because if all of a sudden there's this, hey, the audience really doesn't like this or they think this would make it better, people can use our tools, go out there and be like, we made it for you. And then we can play it and be like, that's amazing. Like we integrate stuff from mods. Like we look at, and we improve on it. Now, since you're so hardcore, I will tell you, we now have the ability to, as you're moving your mouse, as you're moving the cursor around, if you hold down the Alt key, it will show you a preview of like what are the targeting options at that location.
Oh, sick!
That's super.
That's really
So,
good.
and that was inspired by some mods pushed what we did further, and we said, okay, we'll go even further than that. And it's a great symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, I've got friends who play XCOM 2, and it's a question I wanted to ask you is, does the amount of mods in the XCOM 2 community diminish the impact of like paid DLC when you can play these mods for free?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that what mods do is they keep people engaged and they change it up and they keep it fresh for people, and then we can come along and do things that other people can't. You know, we can create certain types of content, certain types of gameplay that, you know, we hope we can add value that others can't. But for us, we see the mods as it's a great way of saying like, okay, the community gets all this new content that they can engage with, and then we can come in. That gives us the time. You know, it took us a while to make this product. It took us a long time to make something this big. It took us, our entire team, it took us a long time. And thank God for mods that can keep people excited and playing, and then we can come in later and say, all right, now we have this massive thing that, you know, modders can't do, and then we release it to people, and I think everybody gets re-energized, and then people are just going to go and mod the expansion pack.
Yeah. And then I think we did an interview with you recently, if I'm not mistaken, or like a couple months ago. We asked you, like, at a certain point, does the game stop becoming the developers and almost become fans? Like, how do you balance implementing fan feedback with, like, the authorial intent on your side?
Yeah, and that's the balance, is that even if your audience, they're not designers, but they are the owners. In my opinion, their values are more important than mine. I'm not gonna try to force my values on players, because if I do that, then I won't be in this job very long. So I listen to what they say, and I say, okay, I'm the designer. I should have the tools to implement what they want. You know, so they tell me, I don't like this, or this part's great, or we wish we had more of that. Well, then it's my job to say, okay, my job, my training should allow me to say, like, I know how to implement that. And so that's what's led to a lot of the things in the expansion pack, is saying, like, okay, we've heard what people love about XCOM 2, what they want improved, and so let's go out there and make something massive that sort of delivers on that.
If enough people got in your ear, is there ever a chance we could see XCOM come to Nintendo Switch?
Yeah.
As a player, I would love that. I can say with all honesty, I have not had that conversation yet, but yeah, I definitely see the value in that for sure. Besides, we got Mario and Rabbids.
I know. I want to ask you about that.
I know, but I just, I see an opportunity for something that would work great with a touchscreen in some respects.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. I mean, we've certainly had success on touchscreens with Enemy Unknown, so yeah.
What do you think of Mario plus Rabbids Battle Kingdom?
I mean, I wish somebody had a camera on me as I was watching the press conference. I was like, oh, cool, yeah. And then I was like, what? I was like, what? What is that? I was like, what are they doing? And then there's like some point where I think some guy was like, and as you see, Luigi has taken half cover. And I was like, what world am I in? I seriously have had a stroke, clearly. So it is amazing. To me, it's really, really cool. I think what they've done is really cool. I mean, just seeing it is very exciting. I love the look of it, and for me, it's fun. I cannot play XCOM with my daughters. In fact, so I have 3 daughters, 7, 4, and 1. And so the other day when I was on the PC gaming show, my wife was like, "Hey, let's watch Daddy on the show," and I forgot to tell her, like, the trailer is going to be on before I come on, and it's just all these scary, like, and my daughters are like, "Oh, jeez." I don't let them watch XCOM, and so I see this, and I'm like, "Hey, there's something that's turn-based, it's tactical. It's not XCOM, it's their completely new thing, but there are similarities there," and I'm like, I can actually, like, play something, and I could be like, "Hey, Daddy does something kind of like this," and so I could have that experience with them. So for me, it's awesome.
you see the fact that maybe since it was on Ubisoft stage, but Nintendo's involved, the fact that like now Mario is getting into this kind of genre, like subgenre of strategy.
Yeah.
You know, Fire Emblem's another comparison.
Yeah.
Do you see this as a promising kind of maybe spark for other teams to make games like this?
Unquestionably. I mean, we all build off of each other. You know, every time I play a game, you know, everything I do, I'm sitting there going like, how can I use this? How can I use this? And so. It's great. I mean, this is going to bring more fans to tactical gameplay, and so I mean, that's so awesome to see. It's so awesome to see. So I think it's for me, it's exciting. I think it's validating when you make turn-based tactics to see some other studios trying it out and adding their own spin on things. So it's really exciting.
Did you see anything else from whether it was Nintendo or Ubisoft or anything that excited you? Did you get to watch the press conferences? Or were you
I mean. Battlefront, like the single-player portion of it, like that's really, really exciting for me. I'm a super Star Wars nerd. Anthem. I think Anthem. Anytime BioWare does anything, that's the kind of studio that I'll be like, okay, I will definitely play that. You know, I just need to see like the BioWare logo, and I'm like, yeah, all right, I'll buy that. I'll play that. I mean, I think those were two that I was super excited about. Last night looked pretty crazy. Looked really cool. So I mean, I love E3. I mean, I'm a gamer. I love E3. I'm not cynical about it. Like, I get so excited seeing what people are making. Like, it's just as exciting.
Yeah, more personal side, going back to XCOM, as you can imagine after I've been talking about it, I actually know a decent deal about how XCOM in 2012 became a thing.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
No.
What is it like now that XCOM's out in the world and XCOM 2 and you're just like pushing out DLC now, huge expansions, like Nintendo and Ubisoft are kind of getting into that kind of game. What does it feel like to go from the struggle that it was to bring XCOM 2012 to life to now?
I mean, it's very different. I mean, it's very different, and I'm very, very grateful. I mean, because the thing to remember is that what we do, it's very like, what did you do last? I mean, we all know like your first bad game is probably your last one, and so I just sort of keep that present, and I think our team, we stay hungry and we get excited by what other people are doing, and all of us, we went through that, and it was hard, and then we got to a point like this, but we still remember, like, we just need to worry about, like, making sure we're always making a good game. And that's what it always comes down to. You always got to make a good game. So, but it is rewarding. It's super rewarding to look around and see more turn-based tactical games and seeing that becoming a bigger deal. Like, it's pretty cool.
Did you get the chance to play any Fire Emblems? Much of them?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. And I think that's really inspiring. I mean, they do completely different things. They do damage types. They did the relationship stuff, and so I mean, you feed off of those kinds of games. You feed off of. I'm playing Persona right now, like in my hotel room. Yeah. Like I brought my PS4, and it was like, "Hey, you going to the party tonight?" I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, I have 3 young kids.
Got some hearts to steal.
I brought my PS4, so I wake up in the morning, I play Persona. I go to bed at night playing Persona. Like I'm like just. That to me is like the dream of E3. It's not the parties. It's like being in a hotel room just playing video games. So.
But where are you in the game without spoiling too much?
Very early. I'm very early. I'm still attacking the first castle. So.
Me too.
Yeah, there's a guy in the pink underwear and the robe, and I'm having a hard time parsing what I'm seeing sometimes. And
some of the enemies get pretty graphic.
Yeah.
Later on, if you haven't seen them yet, I think you know what I'm talking about if you have. But
I don't think so. I mean, I've seen some strange ones where I'm like, I'm not sure what I'm looking at there, but that's the joy. That's part of the joy of it. You're just like, wow, this is, Yep.
So you are like, Firaxis itself between Civilization, the recent Civilization 6 and XCOM 2, and going back in your development history, you've been very, I think it's fair to say, focused on like PC development. But XCOM has come to consoles.
Yep.
Last generation with XCOM and Enemy Within, not Evil Within.
Evil Within was also on consoles, though. So
true. I guess I'm lying.
Oh, man.
But then, of course, now it's on PS4, Xbox One, XCOM 2.
Yeah.
What do you think of like Xbox One X, all this stuff that's coming out with this? What do you think of this console shift toward almost like PC cycles?
It's pretty interesting. Yeah. I mean, I think the basically they now have to make the case of like why I'm upgrading, and it's easy for me because I'm like a hardware junkie. So I'm like, that sounds amazing. Like 4K, that means that I have to buy that, and then I have to buy a 4K TV because I have to. Obviously, it's research for work. So yeah, for me it's exciting. I love backwards compatibility because there's still games that I still enjoy, and
Yeah.
so it's really cool if they continue that, then that for me is really exciting. Yeah, I mean it's them responding to the market. It's them being smart, and so yeah, I think it's great.
Does it change how you think at all about like development on your end? Everybody we've talked to says like, like making it to be supported on the Xbox One X is actually pretty simple because it actually like can benefit like working for the S and the Xbox One, et cetera. And the
That's right.
PS4 Pro can also benefit the Slim version.
Right.
What is it? Does it change how you think?
I mean, I think is that you get excited at the possibilities, especially if you make cross-platform. So if you're making a PC title where you have to take advantage of these wide ranges of hardware and some pretty extreme hardware, you always worry about like the minimum spec is what you worry about though. So you got to make it work on Xbox One and just PS4, and then you look at the Pro, you look at the X, and you say like, what extra can we do? And for us, it's exciting because we make PC games as well. We already can take advantage of some of that better hardware.
Yeah. Just to go back to XCOM toward the end, we have another guest coming on soonish, but I do want to go back before we leave.
Yeah.
Future of XCOM, right? Like I said, it took a while for you to get XCOM to be a reality. Back in 2012, it was like a decade-long kind of struggle thing from a, like a cult classic back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Bringing that like pretty hardcore game to life. But now you got a few DLCs for XCOM 2.
Yeah.
You got Shen's Last Gift, you got Anarchy's Children, there's some more cosmetic stuff, and then you've got Chosen War coming out soon.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll like leave XCOM behind anytime soon? Obviously, you probably can't go into too much detail, but are you itching to kind of do something new, or is this still like something you're committed to?
And this is, and I get asked this, and I can answer it honestly because I can tell you. So I've been at Firaxis Games for 17 years, over 17 years. It was my first job out of college. I've been married for 17 years. I am a guy, when I like something, I like it, and I just don't. I'm gifted to be simple enough to be like, if I like it, I don't typically be like, or I could do this other thing. I'm more like, I like this. I will probably do this for the rest of my. I will probably be on this stage in 50. We'll be floating because it'll be 50 years from now. But wait, in 50, I'll be 90. I think I'm younger than him. Okay, I'll be 90. I'll be making XCOM 27, and I'll be up here. It's great. I love it. I mean, I really don't think. I honestly don't see myself leaving this because especially even when you see other studios dipping their toes into tactical stuff, like there's just so much left to do. There is so much left to do, and I like this genre of games because this is my favorite, and this is what I play, and so I play all kinds of games, but for me, this is what I always come back to. So, sometimes I'll see something people are doing, I get blown away by it, but I always get excited about like what more can I do in this space.
Yeah, what do you think of the overall state of the strategy, like larger strategy genre now? Because you see so many things. You see Fire Emblem doing really well on 3DS. You see, like you said, Ubisoft showed off a really weird, quirky combination of two big, like properties.
Yeah.
But you see other things like outside of that. You see like tactical games. You see, like his favorite game is Final Fantasy Tactics.
That's nowhere to be seen.
Right, and I still have not played that.
But surely not for long, right? I mean, that's what I think. I think everybody's recognizing surely not for long. I mean, I think that especially as we have more platforms to play on, strategy games, tactical games, games that are focused around turns that give the player a little more freedom to play games. Like none of us just sit there or rarely do we just sit there and play games anymore. Like I play games and I've got a stream going and I'm messing around on social media. And so tactical games, any turn-based games, they're great for that. And it doesn't mean that that's all you have to play. I think that people are just more open now to being like, that every once in a while I'll play this, I'll have this kind of experience with games, or I'll play this different kind of game. So I don't think that I'm also dying for Final Fantasy Tactics to come back strong. So.
It needs to be like a medieval, high fantasy type, not we're kids, we opened a book and we time traveled and we're still kids.
See, somebody's been thinking about this. Yeah.
Oh,
He's waiting
every
for
day.
me to jump on it.
And what bugs me is that I've been telling him since I've known him that it's my favorite game of all time, and he has never played it.
Play XCOM 2, and then we can talk.
Right. Sickness.
Just kidding.
But
I'll play Final Fantasy Tactics. But all right, so Jake Solomon, when can we play War of the Chosen?
August 29th. It's out on PC, Xbox One, and PS4.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate you taking time out. I know you're probably busy this week.
No, I love stopping by here. So thank you guys for taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you so much.